welcome to Layback with Betfair. Joined by the A-team, we're back.
Hello, welcome to Layback with Betfair Royal Ascot special, the greatest weekend of racing the greatest week in racing, what many people suggest and say. Royal Ascot Carnival, I look forward to it, and Exchange on Betfair is where to head for all the action. It's a great market. We'll talk about why coming up. We've got two special guests. Rory Flanagan, the UK expert, is here. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. It's grand final week for me, basically. This is
it's where you are judged. There's a week of racing where everyone either bags you or praises you.
How
do you feel?
They'll bag me anyway, but it's, it depends on what I'm doing the following week after with the funds.
This is where heroes are made. People wake up the next day and hopefully they've got money in their Betfair account. If they don't, they will jump on Twitter and X and criticise. Liam, I have no idea what you're going to add today.
No, neither do I, which is the beauty of this recorded piece. But what I do love is that everyone considers themselves a semi-expert at Australian races. But then Royal Ascot comes around and everyone goes, well, I've got no idea. So who do I turn to? So it's lovely to have Rory sitting next to us today with a lot more education on this than we do. So I'll be listening a lot more than I'll be speaking.
I totally agree. He's going to run the show. I'll just throw to him. What a week it is. I want to ask you, Rory, about the weather first and foremost and the track conditions, because that plays a huge part in this carnival.
Definitely. It looks like we're getting a bit of rain, just not sure how much we're going to get. As forecast for the first day on the Tuesday, I think there's a little bit around, and then also later on in the week as well. If it comes up soft, which most of the markets are currently priced for, there won't be too much volatility. But if it stays dry, it'll be all change. It'll be a completely different market. All of the favourites that are currently priced off soft ground form will drift markedly, and all the dry trackers they'll come for. So it's a guessing game with the futures markets at the moment for the dry trackers. So if you like them, you're getting a better price. You've just got to hope that the rain stays away.
We'll preview the 8 Group 1s plus the Hardwicke Stakes, where Australians have a hand in that race as well. How'd you go last year? It's a tough year for punters on a whole.
It was a tough year for just about everyone. I think the average winning price was between $13 and $17.
That sounds like a lot, but you have some huge fields.
There were I think there were 4 or 5 winners that were above 50 to 1.
Yeah.
Most of the winning favourites were extremely short as well. So when you did land the favourite, you weren't really getting much pocket money back for it.
Right. So to have a few short price favourites win and still have an
absolute bloodbath,
$13, $15, that's a fair bit.
And it was horses with just form that was nowhere near the form guide, popping up out of nowhere, and horses that did nothing on debut in the 2-year-old races found themselves in the big feature 2-year-old group races, and then were bolting up at 150 to 1 and things like that. So it's tough, but it's a staying test. It's 5 days. You've just got to spread things out evenly and not panic too much.
Any advice for punters out there? Obviously, head to the Betfair Hub and the Betfair app as well. We can see your selections, Rory. But any advice for people out there that are just wanting to glaze over the form? Any go-to jockeys? Anything that, like, wide barriers and straight? Anything that you can just say, here's a couple of angles and a bit of education?
It's going to be very interesting how markets react this year, with Frankie Dettori ruling himself out last night. So he had a tumble the other day in America.
I thought he retired.
He's been riding in America. He rode 6 winners in a row a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And he had a tumble the other night and just said, no, I'm too stiff and sore. I'm not doing any press, not doing any media. I'm just going to sit up in the Italian restaurant in the grandstand, and I'm there for all 5 days.
Nice.
So
it's a good life.
In the past, Frankie Dettori has been responsible for a lot of liquidity. People just throwing multis on, and then bookies laying him off on exchange and whatnot. So without him there, and the jockey that's taken over his job for the Gosdens, who's doing terribly, I might add.
Tell us what you really think.
It's going to be an interesting betting prospect. His name's Kieran Schumark, and I don't think I've seen a jockey more bereft of confidence than that poor man at the moment, because he's filling the massive shoes of Frankie Dettori, and at the moment he's just not being given the right horses to stamp himself in the job, and I'd be worried he wouldn't be filling that seat much longer.
So you're looking to be against him, potentially.
Yes.
There you go. Well, let's head to Tuesday's Group 1. We've got the Queen Anne, the King's Stand, the St James Palace as well. Obviously, a fantastic way to kick off the carnival. Let's get to the Queen Anne. Favourites have a strong record here, and have you got the market up on Betfair, Len?
Sure do. Inspiral's a favourite, $4.30. Sharin, $4.90. Factor Cheval, $5.80. Big Rock, $8.80. Audience, $14. Out to a few more of the roughies. Maljoum, Royal Scotsman, and Delaley is out at $32.
Beautiful. Straight race over a mile. You love to see it, Len.
I wouldn't love to see it a lot. That's I find straight races over 1,200 at Flemington hard enough to pick, let alone 1,600 at Royal Ascot with a few lumps in between it. But that's why you're getting such a big price for all these runners, I guess.
That's amazing. Which way are we landing in the Group 1 Queen Anne?
Yeah, I've gone with Factor Cheval based on the run in Dubai was massive. It chased home Big Rock in the QE2 over a mile on the straight course at the back end of last season, and Big Rock's changed trainers this year and he's gone like a busted for that trainer. Poor bloke's had one winner from 70 runners this season. So Big Rock is a very precarious bet. But Factor Cheval, the Japanese horse that ran second behind Romantic Warrior last week, was the horse that finished in the head bubble with Factor Cheval in Dubai. So form stacks up really, really nicely. You do not have to worry about the ground because he goes on anything, and he handles the uphill finish as he's got a second placing on the course already. So I think he's a rock solid bomb-proof bet at around $5-6. Inspira will drift because she can't swim. And
so if the rain doesn't come, Inspiral's a chance.
Inspiral's definitely a chance.
Hit the pick button on the Betfair.
Absolutely. I've had a little lay on Inspiral, thinking that the rain is going to come and soften her chances. She didn't go a yard last start because she was lacking in condition, and she's had a poor record on soft ground in the past as well. So I think at this stage of her career as well, she's much better over 2,000 metres, which is what she did at the Breeders' Cup. So I think I'd be inclined to take her on with any kind of moisture in the ground. And in fact, Cheval looks a good solid bet.
Beautiful. Let's move on to the Group 1 King's Stand. What's the market doing with the Aussie Asfura?
Asfura is third line of betting, $8.60 on the exchange currently, behind Big Evs and Regional at $4.60 and $7.40 respectively. We push further out to Kurdos, Believing, Twilight Calls, all at that $12 mark. And then Rogue Lightning at $15 with the rest 24 plus.
What do we do with Asfura? Which side of the track will they come? Does barriers make a huge difference in this race?
Massive. If you're drawn the slow side, you basically can't win.
Which one's the slow side? Please tell me.
That's what we'll have to figure out on the day.
Did you walk the track last year?
I did. I walked the track with Oisin Murphy.
Was it evident to work out which side of the track they'd come walking the track?
It was almost like it was like a pitchfork. It was like there were 3 lanes and then 2 complete dead zones.
Yeah, right.
And most of the winners were coming from those. So in these big handicaps, there were sort of like horses that were fan out, and then the horses that were here would end up at the back of the field.
Yeah. And
you'd have the far side, the middle, and then sort of the stand side. Again, we're all sort of finding out the finish. So we're getting these ridiculous price winners because all the good horses were, following the front runners who weren't stopping, but then they were peeling out into the slow lane because the good horse, the weaker horses were in the fast lane. It's like, well, I've got to peel out because this thing's not stopping.
Yeah, right.
End up in the slow lane and then just stop. So with a much more consistent weather pattern this year, I think it'll be much clearer. It'll just be over to one side. Yep. And with some of the fields not going to be as big this year as well, it'll be similar. But if Asfura travels like she did first up, she's in with a chance. She's just got to finish off a race a lot better. And I think a track like Ascot, where she's probably her best distance is probably 1,100 metres. And
it's akin to an 1,200 metre race.
You always got to add an extra 100 metres on, and that's the way a track races with a stiff uphill finish. So if she handles the finish, which she should, at being trained and prepped on the Newmarket Gallops, she's in with a good strong chance. And even Australian B grade sprinters in the past have come out and look like world beaters over there. So if you like her, she's going to be in it a long way, based on just how well she travels. It's just, does she have the legs to get up the hill at the finish? Because she stopped very, very fast, despite hitting $1.51 in the run first up.
Interesting. Might be a little lay trap laying on the exchange. Just back at the price. What price did you say she was?
860 currently, 880 to lay. I imagine it should be looking better than that in the run.
Yeah, it's not a bad betting opportunity there.
And it's definitely a race to keep a very close eye on the fluctuations and who they are coming for late.
Yep.
Because this race is a astonishingly good record for late plunges and smash ups. Like Nature Strip was a huge go in this a couple of years ago, and he absolutely bolted in. Blue Point as well, when he rolled Batash, was a massive go. And Oxted as well was double figures 15 minutes before the race and ended up jumping $4.80. So Big Evs, I think, is the bet based on what he did in the Breeders' Cup when he was caught a little bit deep. So I think Big Evs is the right play.
There you go. Just on Asfura Lamb, if you're an Australian punter, there's no better place to bet on Asfura than Betfair.
Oh, yeah, it's funny. We always say that, so it can get lost in the clouds a little bit. But the Royal Ascot Carnival has always just got incredible liquidity. The pricing is always right down at just over 100%. And the bookies, given they don't know a whole lot, they're always sitting out there at 125%. They don't really try and go too much lower. So you're doing yourself a massive disservice betting with anyone but the exchange, especially around the Royal Ascot time.
Especially with Australian runners, because the corporates here in Australia keep these. They know that the $50, $100 punters, the recreational clients, will be taking a bet for loyalty reasons and patriotic reasons on the Australians. So they can price this for as short as they want, basically, and they'll still get some money. But in the UK, you're betting into UK world pools, so you're actually taking global money, and it's almost the opposite.
Yep.
They would rather back the locals than an Australian horse, so you get much better price than the exchange.
And the other thing I should mention is the commission on UK racing is half of what you get on Australian racing.
Don't mention the war.
Yeah. So you're always gonna get a better rate.
Big Evs, you tip there in the King's 10?
Big Evs.
All right. St James Palace, what a Group 1 this is. 1,600 metres. This is around the bend, is it?
This one is around the bend, yeah.
Confused the hell out of me, Liam. They've got 1,600 metres straight races, 1,600 metres around the bend.
This is why we have Rory.
That's why we have Rory. I'm surprised I knew that. Where do we head? What do you like here? We'll get the market in a second, but Rory, you go first.
There was a horse that everyone wanted to take on in the English 2000 Guineas based on the fact that he'd never raced on turf. Everyone said, "Oh, he's got a synthetic action. He's not gonna transfer the synthetic form to the turf form." And then he produced an astonishing sectional and went from essentially last to first in the Guineas in a furlong, and ran away with it. And the second horse went and won the Irish 2000 Guineas to frank that form. And then the sixth is now favourite for the Commonwealth Cup as well from the Guineas. So the form is astonishingly good, and if that horse replicates the run from, or even half that run from the Guineas, it's called Notable Speech for Charlie Appleby and Godolphin. He'll win this doing handstands. He's very, very, very sharp.
Liam's just betting as you're speaking. What price you got, Liam?
Well, we're 256, so pretty solid there. But there's
before
obviously
or after you bet.
That's well and truly before. Yeah. But what I will say is there's obviously a lot of confidence in this market on the exchange already. There's 262 to lay, and there's plenty of money there on the lay side. So people are trying to be backing at 262 and 270 as well. So it's good seeing that early market confidence for a few of the punters out there. But 256 is currently available.
You happy with that?
Very, very happy. I'd be happy taking even money on him just about because if there's any semblance of rain, then Rosellian can't win. He's a bone dry tracker. Henry Longfellow's going like a busted, and then 3 or 4 of the horses that are in this field currently in this market aren't running there either. They're just in there as a wait and see for the weather. So I think if you're taking the 250 now, he's probably going to jump closer to $2.20, $2 on the day, and you're locked in at the futures price, so you get no deductions.
Love that.
You're getting busted, going like a busted, and no charts for the 490 and the 450 second and third elects, and out to $12 plus for the rest. So Notable Speech seems to be one that the punters should be taking.
Or you just lay the two that have none, apparently. according to Rory.
I was this confident about a horse called Caribus a couple of years ago, and he obliged at a similar price. So
Fingers crossed.
So-
Is he one of your better bets program?
yeah, he's probably close to probably second best bet.
Oh, I look forward to your best if you're going to be that confident about your best. Let's get to Wednesday, the Group 1 Prince of Wales 2000. So the only Group 1 on the day? On
Yes,
Wednesday? Yep.
yes, it is.
What's the market doing here, Lem?
Well, there's two dominating the market, and I'm sure it'll dominate the chat as well. Is Auguste Rodin is $2.80 favourite from White Birch at $3.30, and then out to double figures the rest with Horizontal Door just under that at $9.80 and 15 plus the rest.
Those two favourites have met in the past, Rory.
Yes, White Birch went straight past him last start, which I mentioned on the other show, which was a bit of a turn up. White Birch has just gone to a new level this prep, but Auguste Rodin's a bit of an enigma. Sometimes he sort of loafs around. So I wonder if they're going to put any silly bugger tactics in this time, change the tempo around, maybe make it a more brutally run race. I just think the amount of Prince of Wales have been won by front runners.
Yep.
You're better off seeing who jumps and takes the lead in this, and maybe just backing the leader in play.
Ooh.
Because we've seen State of Rest do it in the past. He came out to Australia, won a Cox Plate, and went back Prince of Wales, and racked him and stacked him. And other horses have done that in the past as well. So I think that's one you've got to tread with caution as well. And White Birch, they knocked a few offers back from Australia and Hong Kong for him. They've kept him in training because they rate how well he's going. I think they probably deserve to start equal favourites. And I couldn't take a strong lean to either one at this stage. But if Blue Rose Sen, the filly, was still with her previous trainer, I'd be leaning towards her because she's an extremely strong front runner. I think she's a 3-time Group 1 winner. It's just the fact that she's left that stable and been sent to the bloke with one winner and 70 runners.
Yep.
That's put me off her. Otherwise, she'd be a rock solid each way bet for me.
Can I ask you, obviously Vision, and you might find it on a couple of betting app websites where Vision's a bit faster than your streaming services. What do you, if you're betting in play, and obviously you've got an opportunity here over 2,000 metres in Group 1 to find the leader and bet on that in play, but is there any streaming services, anything you radio, what's faster in terms of that so you can work out who's jumping to the front?
If it's like a massive race, I'll call some mates over in the UK and FaceTime, and they can let me know what's going on. Otherwise, even sometimes people on course as well.
Yep.
But I would be wary trusting the tab vision because they're at least 7 seconds behind.
Yeah.
Which is a long way. And the course delay from racetrack to the exchange is about 3 seconds.
Yep.
So beware of the tab vision and the sky vision. Most other places are a bit better than that.
So it sounds like the two favourites are going to be fighting out, but Blue Rose Sen is currently just above $8 on the corporates, and we're getting $15.50 on the exchange. So
good price there. Take
sounds
the
like a good spot to
$15.50
go.
and jumps to the front. You can lay off.
And any rain she gets, she should start half. If the rain comes for her, she should start half the price.
Good. Go and water the track and lay off. Blue Rose Sen there. Let's head to Thursday. Group 1 Gold Cup, 4,000 metres. Kyprios goes around again. I feel like this horse has been running around for years. What price, Kyprios?
Kyprios is short. We're a $2.04 favourite. Next in the market is Gregory and Vauban that we know from the Melbourne Cup, both at $7.60. And then Trawler Man and Coltrane around about the $15 and $23.
Love it. Backing or laying Kyprios here?
On the day, we're going to get a without favourite market on Betfair Exchange. And as it's Royal Ascot, there will be monstrous liquidity for that.
Yep.
Especially as such a short price favourite. So there's two horses that I'll be stepping into. One called Sweet William, who was something licked in an e-ball behind Absurd.
$21 in the market.
And also Coltrane, who absolutely loves Ascot. And he will be bang thereabouts at the end of the 4,000 metres. Some of these don't really get the trip. And Kyprios is probably just going to be in another postcode to most of this field. So if you like the $2, I can't talk you out of it. I wouldn't be touching anything like $1.60, $1.70. because he did look a shade one paced first up.
It was a
But
4,000 metre race.
Yeah.
but he steps up basically 1,000 meters in trip or
Yeah.
1,400 meters in trip, and he just finds dozens of lengths for that. So Sweet William is a seriously improving stayer, and Coltrane is probably that one rung below Kyprios, but he's probably the best of the chasing pack. So those two at a bit of value to run second to Kyprios, I'm happy to side with.
There you go. Anything to add, Liam?
No, so 23 and 21 respectively, those two runners in the main market. So stand by for the favourite out market, which will come closer to the day.
Yeah, beautiful. Just before we get into back to school segment, which we're going to touch on, I'm excited for that. Is there any, obviously we touched on the Prince of Wales, we touched on the Group 1 Gold Cup, some staying races. Is there any horses to keep an eye on from a Australian Spring Melbourne Cup perspective that are going around earlier on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or is it later in the program?
They're all later in the week. There is a really nice prospect that Kieran Maher and Dave Eustace have managed to take a slice of 50% in with guitar racing, similar to a horse called St. George.
Kieran Maher and David Eustace.
Sorry, well, at the time he brokered the deal, Dave Eustace.
I wonder if he stays in it. The ownership, who knows?
It's with Qatar Bloodstock, so they've got that venture with St. George already, who unfortunately he got injured. But same sort of horse profile, top quality, 2,400 metre type. He'll be running close to favourite, if not favourite, on Saturday.
Beautiful. Let's get it back to school now before we move on. We've got a UK and Ireland ratings model starting up next week, Liam, and I can't wait for that. You can access that in the Betfair Hub and on the Betfair app as well. We've seen it in Australia, and I want to get your opinion on ratings in a second, Rory and Liam. But the ratings model, it's based on algorithms, a lot of past history in terms of stats, and a lot of data goes into it. So algorithms and machine learning models produce these prices, and you can actually find out, and they'll be accessible on the Betfair Hub and the Betfair app as well. So you can back and lay based on these rated prices. I know you delve into ratings a fair bit, Liam. What are the benefits, and how do you like to use them and apply your trade on the exchange based on ratings?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it very briefly there already. I love the fact that when you get ratings, it tries to quantify every single runner. And when you're quantifying every runner, you can then make a decision based on whether you think it's, okay, well, I'm staying out of this one, which is what you're doing the majority of the time, or there's some positive value or some negative value. So if there's, you got a horse rated $5 and it's even money in the market, well, of course, that's a perfect laying opportunity. Same horse, you've got rated $5 and the market says $10. Well, it's a great backing opportunity. So I think every single runner in every single race could be a back or lay opportunity, very much dependent on what the market says. So that's great. I mean, we've had it running on thoroughbreds and greyhounds now for quite some time, and
in Australia?
Australia, yes, and managed to implement that into both the hub, as you mentioned, but obviously really easy to find on the app now as well. Color coded, so if it's blue, it's value to back, and if it's pink, it's value to lay. For me, as I mentioned earlier, I know nothing about Royal Ascot, so it's a perfect opportunity if I want to have a bet in the race, and I can follow something that's had a lot of time and money put into it already to produce it. That makes it a lot easier for me, and something that I can enjoy the racing without having to do a whole lot of form that, let's be honest, I'm going to have no idea with anyway. So it certainly makes it a lot easier, and being able to quantify every runner in a race means you can really trade rather than just backing a runner. If there's value early when you're looking at the market, in these Royal Ascot markets, there's a lot of liquidity early on, days out even. So if the ratings model produces something that's a big bet, you can chip it away at it slowly and watch it come in, hopefully, and then trade out late if it happens to follow what the model says. And
it's a strategy a lot of syndicates, a lot of big teams do as well. They obviously rate horses and do that and chip away at prices. And they back and lay a lot of horses in races as well. So they don't just focus on one. There's a lot of opportunities. The great thing about a ratings model based on data and historical events and history and machine learning is it takes biases out of it. It is pure statistics and pure data. And everyone, believe it or not, and for good or bad, they have biases and they have opinions. They look at a field and they might focus in a horse they like, and that might be in the back of the mind when they're doing the form. And it is hard to get away from bias, Rory. The ratings are good for that.
Yeah, it does. And I think with this sort of stuff, you've got to marry it up to probably stables that have consistency and runners that in target the same sort of races each year or target bigger races, because the chopping and changing with the handicap system in the UK and the amount of jockeys that go on and shuffling the deck, I think that's where it might get puzzling to some. But consistent, like using it for stables like Aidan O'Brien, John Gosden, things like that, where you've got consistent pool of data to go off, and where they potentially had a runner in that race almost every year, because these big stables tend to map out the same plan for the same sort of horse each year and year on year. I think that would be a good base to start off. To start with your big stables, your bigger jockeys, and go off there.
Love it. We'll check it all out on the Betfair Hub and the Betfair app. Launches Tuesday on the Betfair app, Liam, the UK and Ireland rating order. I can't wait for it. It's going to be good. I'll be checking it out for Royal Ascot. Let's get to Friday racing. Friday night, our time obviously overnight. Commonwealth Cup, 1200 metre Group 1 and the Coronation Cup over 2400. Let's head to the Commonwealth Cup. Rory, which way are you siding with here before Liam gets to the market?
This is basically this is the UK equivalent of the Coolmore Sprint. So 1200 metres up the straight.
Except fillies have a better record in the Cornwall.
Yes. Just don't touch the fillies ever in this race, unless you're an American.
Unless you're an American better or
no. Well, I think the only horses that have won this were American fillies.
Right.
So,
why is that?
Wesley Ward brings them over.
Yeah. Right.
Basically, last year was a race between three, and I think it's the same sort of race again.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Van Dijk, who was this all-conquering sprinter 2-year-old who came up a bit flat first up. He's still thereabouts at the top of the market, probably better with a little bit of juice in the ground. But the horse that ran straight past him, Inner Sharon, who ran a really tough 5th or 6th in the Guineas when there was no way he was going to get the trip. So to be there for such a long way was a credit to him. And then he had that rock hard fitness base stepping back to a sprinting trip where he knocked off Van Dijk. And horses stepping down from the Guineas have a phenomenal record in this race. So he's one that's definitely been crunched in betting and gone to the top of the market.
Just before we Inner Sharon, what price you got there?
Inner Sharon and Van Dijk, both horses mentioned, are equal favourites at $5.40. Elite Status $8.40. Bucanero Fuerte at $9.60. Round out the single figures. And Jazor, Starlust, Porta Fortuna, all between $11 and $21.
That third horse on betting there, Elite Status, is that the other one with the winning chance?
I was going to make mention of him. I think going through his replay again at York is probably a bit flattered, because Relief Rally probably should have beat him. She had absolutely no luck at all, and she was at the back of the field. I'm not too sure he likes Ascot too much. I think he's a better horse on flatter tracks, which is why York suited him. I think for that reason, I'm happy to be against him. The third horse I like is Bucanero Fuerte, who bolted in first up, and they said, all right, cotton wool, let's keep him for the big Group 1 Royal Ascot. And he ran a pretty good race last year, and if he's drawn with the pace, he's going to look the winner at some stage. So with a bit of value, be leaning to him as a value bet, and then maybe just trying to save off on the other two.
What price was he?
$9.60.
$9.60 there on the exchange. Like the Coolmore, is it a massive field?
Usually get a pretty strong field. I don't think there's been one that's been less than double digits in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
So it usually attracts a nice big field. You get some horses that come over from France, because there aren't many Group 1 sprints this time of year over there. You get the American Raiders, you get the Irish horses coming up, and you obviously get the failed milers who revert to sprinting trips, and the 5 furlong horses that are not quite good enough to target the King Stand that get thrown in here as well.
Interesting. Look forward to that. That'll be good to watch. The Coronation Cup started the second Group 1 on the program there over 2,400 metres. Is this a race where a couple of Australians, or is it more the Hardwicke Stakes, or not Australians, but horses that might head to Australia?
This one is 3-year-old fillies, like the St James Palace. Yep. It's a 3-year-old race. It's around the bend over the mile. And it's one of the it's always one of the more intriguing races because it's always usually the top class fillies that come to the fore. It's usually something that's rock solid in the market, top 2 or 3 lines of betting that wins it. And quite often there's a spectacular performance as well. Inspira won this a few years ago, and she was absolutely devastating. She clocked off one of the best sectionals ever in that race. And we're getting basically a rematch of the English and Irish Guineas horses, and it should be a really, really good renewal. I just think Fallen Angel's pattern with how she basically dictated terms in the Irish Guineas, made use of the bend and had the field more strung out versus the English Guineas. It was on a straight track and they're all fanned out like a light horse cavalry charge.
Yep.
I think that suits better running around a bend. So Fallen Angel will be the one I'm leaning to, and the horse that chased her home, the Lilac Roller, that was buried up the fence. Any juice in the ground, she becomes a live each way chance. I think you're getting a handsome price for her.
Handsome, $65 for a Lilac Roller, that is for sure.
Yeah, so if they're heading that way and she makes a final field, she'll shorten a bit.
Do we wait for acceptances?
I'd wait. I'd wait because I think they're waiting for the forecast. But
just watch the market too. If she trims up to 40s, 30s, they might know they're getting a run.
I think she was a BSP in the Irish Guineas was $16, $17, and she ran second. So the market's quite often disrespected her, and I think with a run under her belt now, because she went to the Guineas first up, she'll be rock solid. I'd be keen to take on the back markers in the race, which is with the way that Rackham and Stackham Coronation Stakes is usually run. I'd be landing on the ones that are on speed. So the likes of Amalka, who stormed home at 50 to 1 in the English Guineas from last. She won't be doing that here. I think you can take her on. So I'll probably be making her a lay on the day, especially if there's some rain about as well.
Yep.
And Aidan O'Brien's got one opera singer that was just beaten fair and square by Fallen Angel. So I'd be keen to uphold that form and take on opera singer.
What price is Fallen Angel for starters?
So taking on Opera Singer and El Malka at $3.55 and $7 respectively, and Fallen Angel the bet at $4.80, and waiting on a Lilac Roller at $65.
Big 1,000 Irish Guineas form reference there. We're leaning that way. Let's get the Hardwicke Stakes on Saturday, 2,400 metre race. And we've got a bit of Australian interest here. And
yes,
is this a race where they head over from the spring, they come through this, or is it?
Yes, yes, this is the one. Kieran Mars sort of built up a partnership with Qatar Bloodstock, and he's got one coming out here called Middle Earth later this year. But this is their send-off race, so to speak. They had St. George last year, who ran an absolute cracker at Royal Ascot. And this horse is probably a little bit speedier and sharper than St. George, who looks an out-and-out stayer. But this bloke, he had basically no right to win last time. There's a lot against him, but he was smashed in betting late on. He went shortened, I think, $2 in price in about 90 seconds before the jump. He was absolutely truckloaded. And the horse he beat, King of Conquest, went to Goodwood last weekend and won and franked that form. And a lot of these horses aren't going to line up in this race. So he will come down in the market. He should probably start $3.40, $50-ish.
What price is he? Middle Earth Lamb?
Currently $4.60.
Have a bet for me while you're there, please.
I'd be having a bit on that. He looks I think he should be the horse that wins the Caulfield Cup this prep.
You got him marked favourite in the Cups?
I would have him favourite for the Caulfield Cup.
Any horse that wins a race on Saturday ends up favourite for a Cup.
Not necessarily.
Corporates bet.
Not necessarily for the Melbourne Cup, but definitely a Caulfield Cup. If he gets a reasonable
3,200 query for him for the Melbourne Cup.
And this race is only being Group 2. He shouldn't get lumped by the handicapper if he wins this. This race is essentially it's one of the historic races at Royal Ascot where it's basically Group 1 horses that run around in a Group 2. He's shown that he can quicken off a slow tempo and off a good tempo, and I think that makes him a force to be reckoned with.
I don't know if you've got might not be much in the market yet, but Caulfield Melbourne Cup markets at the moment, who knows? But one to keep an eye on there, Middle Earth for Caulfield Cups and potentially a Melbourne Cup.
Especially if we get Aidan O'Brien, what he'll try and do with this race, where he'll try and it'll be like he'll concertina this. He'll start off stretching them out for the first half of the race, and then pump the brakes, and he'll try and have his horses whip around and catch up to the field.
Interesting.
Which that plays into the hands of Middle Earth, I think. So they tried to do the same thing in Dubai, and Rebels Romance ended up bolting in because he sat close to the pace. So if Middle Earth can get away and sit handy, really, really suits him, because he's got a St. Ledger winner basically as their horse for this race, and he wants further.
There you go.
Now, thinking of any Australian punters who might be looking at this market, you can see horses that we might recognise, such as Absurd, White Birch, Dubai Honour, that we know very well. Are they any chance to run in the race, or no chance that they'll be going there?
Absurd, I would say no. So there's a lot of horses that might have massive prices on the pink column because they're not going to be running there. So
Dubai Honour?
Dubai Honour.
Another one of mine.
Yeah, I don't think he can possibly win anyway. He was pretty ordinary last start. But it will end up probably a small field and a tactical affair. And based on Middle Earth winning off a slow tempo last time, that plays to his hands, because he should have too much toe for a Ledger winner.
Love it. The last Group 1 we're going to cover, that was the Group 2 Hardwicke. The last Group 1 is the Queen Elizabeth Jubilee, 1,200 metres. I'll start with the market, please, Leo.
Good luck finding the winner here. If you do, you're going to find a decent price. Millstream is the early market favourite at $8.
Oh, big field, Rory?
Yeah.
We should get probably 11 or 12.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Not bad, you can back them all.
Weather's going to be, back them all.
Yeah, it'll be weather dependent basically.
So Millstream leads the market at $8. Kinross, Mitbahi, Shartash are all in between $8 and $9.50. Regional at 11, should have been Naring at $17.50, and Art Power $17.50. So they all string out at a reasonable price, all between $8 and $22 for the top 12 in the market.
You mentioned finding the winner, but I reckon Rory might be pretty keen here on a horse, which is interesting, and a decent price if that market's setting to go by, Rory.
If it comes up soft, I just don't see any reason not to back Kinross. No. Champion sprint last
Price
season.
Kinross?
$8.20 with stacks of money there at $8.
Champion sprint last season, he hit $1.01 in the run. It was matched for, I think, 10,000, and threw the race away, and just let the leader come back up. I think Frankie Dettori got carried away, and either dropped the whip or something happened, and it just came back up the inside. And then the start before that, he got beaten in the Prix de la Forêt in the ARC meeting, where the winner basically just pulled out in front of him like a car in Richmond, and cleaned him up and didn't get the race on protest. So really, he should be on a 4-race winning streak. 2 starts prior to that, he was electric. And I think if the ground comes up soft, he starts $4 probably. They're just not sure about the ground, which is why the market's a bit precarious at the moment. The only issue is he's not going to have his usual jockey in Frankie Dettori. That's the question mark. But he's the class runner of the field. He always runs a rock solid race, handles the track, and most of these have real mixed bag, inconsistent form.
You'll be keeping a close eye on the weather, I assume, and reaching out to people over there with Kinross heading into the Queen Elizabeth Jubilee, 1,200 metres on Saturday night. Let's get to your best bets. I'm not going to ask you, Liam, for obvious reasons. Best bets, best lays.
Yep.
Just to finish us off, Rory.
So best bets, I've gone with Kinross, Facteur Cheval, Noble Speech, and Big Evs.
Yep.
So basically 3 of those on the first day. So you could end up with a sizable bit of pocket money on the first day.
Heading into the last few days, hopefully.
And my best lay is going to be a horse called Fairy Godmother. So Ada O'Brien sent that one out, and she got rolled at her first start, but then she overturned that form, meeting the same horses again. But I just think the way the track pattern played that day, it flattered her quite a bit. And Charlie Appleby has a potential freak, and they're the same sort of price in that race. So I'm probably going to look to double dip and back Charlie Appleby's horse and take on Aidan O'Brien's fairy godmother. So she'd be my best lay of the week.
It's known as the hamburger at layback at Betfair. Hamburger with a lot.
Yeah, it's the Albany Stakes. So the 2 horses there.
When's that?
The Albany will be it'll be one of the early races, I think, it's the 21st on the night. So I think Friday night. Yeah.
Keep an eye on that.
So Fairy Godmother to lay and back Mountain Breeze.
Lovely. Thanks, Rory. It was insightful. Looking forward to a huge week. Not much sleep for you, Rory. Will you be up watching glued to the TV or?
In particular, I'll be watching the Australian interest, as Fulra, and then those Saturday night might keep me awake.
So there we go.
There's
You'll
also
just be getting home when Ascot's starting on the weekend.
Very unlikely.
There's also one horse I should mention as well that Mick Price has picked up called Kitty Rose.
Yes.
Out of Ireland. So had 4 starts for first, second, and second.
Spent a lot of money on that horse.
She'll be a live chance, and I think she's going to be aimed at a lot of the fillies and mares mile type races in our spring carnival. So they'll be hoping for a nice day out and a big run from her. So she's one to look out for spring carnival as well.
Beautiful. All your information on Royal Ascot on the Betfair Hub and your tips up on the Betfair app, so you can download that at your app stores. Gents, it's been an absolute pleasure. Best of luck on the weekend coming up, but Royal Ascot as well. It's going to be a huge week of racing. As always, head over to betfair.com.au. Thanks for joining us on Layback with Betfair.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.